Cat and I play red. Today we're going to look at a game that is actually one of those places we've always wanted to go and never quite got around to it. We're going to be looking at Bruges. Funnily enough, we were going to try and pop by last year as we drove back from Essen, and it just didn't happen. I can't remember where we ended up, but it wasn't Bruges. Bruges itself is out of print. This is by Stefan Feld, published by Z-Man. We got this copy really cheap because of the mangled corner. Currently out of print, but it's going to be coming back as part of the City series by Queen's Games, and they're going to be calling it Hamburg for some reason, which we have been to. So we thought we'd have a look at this. I know Hamburg is going to be slightly different. I think there's a few new things, but the basics of the game are going to be the same. So let's have a look at it. Players will start the game with 5 cards in their hand. As you can see from the backs, these are different colours. When you draw new cards up from the decks, you'll be able to see what colour you're drawing. So here, you know this is going to be a purple card, and you know that is going to be a brown card. But obviously, you know nothing else about the card. But when you draw cards, you can always pick what colour card you're going to be taking. We'll come on to why that's relevant. At the beginning of the round, the start player will roll the dice and place them on the board in numerical order. Ouch. Then the effects of the dice will be applied for all players. Now, the sum total of 1s and 2s are all added up, and each player can choose to play that many guilders to move up the reputation track. So in this case, it would only cost 1 point, which is well worth doing. So I'd pay my 1 coin to the bank, and I'd move up 1 on the reputation track. These are points that you'll gain at the end of the game, and also there's a majority marker that deals with reputation, but we'll talk about those a little later on. Then the next thing you need to check for is 5s and 6s, which is why this was a pretty diabolical roll. I think anyone I was playing against would be a bit upset at me over this. So we have red, purple and brown at 5. So I need to take a fret marker for each of those colours. So these are the fret markers. If you notice, these are like cake or pizza slices, depending on whether you have a sweet or savoury tooth. During the course of the game, you'll get more of these. When you have enough to make a complete cake or pizza, something bad is going to happen, depending on the colour of the fret markers. Now, not only does it actually show you on the back of the fret markers what happens, but each player should have one of these handy little guides that shows you. So, in this case, if I had 3 purple fret markers, I'd immediately lose 3 points. But I would at least get to throw all of those fret markers away. In the case of yellow, you'd lose all your money, and so on, according to the cards. So, let's take that one back. For now, I have 1 red, 1 brown and 1 purple fret marker, which I really need to keep under control. So, I have my starting cards here. There are numerous things you can do with the cards, which are explained down the side. So, let's go through these one by one. At the top here, I can discard this card to take 2 workers of the appropriate colour. These are your workers, and you'll need them for various things over the course of the game. So, if I were to discard this card, I'd get 2 red workers. I can also discard a card to get money. Now, this is where the 5s are actually quite handy because, again, using the red card as the example, I could discard this red card to get 5 guilders, as shown on the dice here. I can also use cards to get rid of fret markers. So I could discard this red card to get rid of one red fret marker, and I'd also gain a point. Whenever you discard fret markers, you gain a point from it, which is shown here. I can build a river. So this, indicated by the red token, is my river area. So again, using the red card as an example, I could discard it, pay 1 coin and place a river here. I can also use the card to build a house. So because this is a red card, I would need to discard a red worker. Remember me saying these were handy? And I'd place it face down in my play area, and it becomes a house. Ready to demonstrate the next thing you can do with your cards. So my purple guy has all the same keys down the side here. I can also play this card. It would cost me 3 coins and I need a house to put him in. So if I were to take my 3 guilders and pay them, I'd put him face up in the house. He then has an ability here where I can discard a blue worker, and then for every noble person in my play area, I'd gain 2 coins. So he's actually here already. So I could, in theory, immediately discard a blue worker to gain 2 coins. The abilities these people have can only be used once per round. So let's pop him there and have a look at the rest of my cards. Now, those 5s were horrible, but as you can see, a lot of these are quite expensive. So now would be a good time to actually discard any red, purple or brown cards, because they're very valuable this round. Next round, they might only be worth 1. So I could discard a purple person for 5 guilders. Pop that. So those are your basic actions with the cards. You'll take turns doing one action at a time, and although you start the round with 5 cards, you'll only use 4 each round. You don't draw up until the end of the round, and that's done in player order. So using your cards wisely is very important over the course of each round. I touched on this earlier, but let's have a look at rivers in a bit more detail. As you can see from the board, each quadrant has 2 rivers for each player. These little seals are put here to indicate which belong to which player. So if I wanted to build here, I would pay 2 coins, discard a brown card and place that there. Now at the end of the game, I'll score 3 points for either or both of these points if I've reached that far. If I manage to build all the way to the end here, oops, unlikely in the first round with 4 actions, but I then get to take one of these statue tokens. As you can see, the top one is worth 9 points, second one 8, and they decrease as you go down the stack. Again, these aren't scored until the end of the game, so you take the statue tile, pop it in front of you, and forget about it until the end of the game. At the end of the round, after each player's had 4 actions, they should be left with just 1 card in hand. Though there are actions and abilities that may change that, and some players may have more or less. Usually you'll have 1 card left to take with you into the next round. At the end of the round, you'll then check for majority markers. Each player will have 3 of these in front of them, and we'll check to see if they have the majority in any of these 3 things. So at the moment I have this crazy impossible river, so I have more river tokens on the board than anyone else. So I'd flip that over and it would go in front of me and be worth 4 points at the end of the game. Now if someone else was to come along and build an even crazier river, I still get to keep this, though they would then get the majority marker for that round. This one is the reputation track. So again, in this case, I'm at the front, so I'd get that. However, in a later round, if green were to jump ahead, they'd get their majority marker, but I'd still keep mine flipped over for those valuable endgame points. The last marker we have is a people marker. So this is the number of people in your tableau. At the moment, I only have one. I'm going to pretend that green player has 3 or 4, so I don't get to flip that, and it stays in front of me that side up. Once each player has checked their majority markers, the start player token moves around the table and the next round will begin. The first thing the start player will do is draw cards, back up to 5. So, as I was saying, you may have more or less, but you always draw back up to 5. So I would draw 4 cards, whereas other players may be drawing more or less, depending on what's in their hand. As I said earlier, you can see the colours of cards, but not the detail. So if I wanted to carry on expanding my river, for example, I might want to take a purple card. Or if I wanted to get rid of some of my threat tokens, I'd take a purple, a brown, or red cards to get rid of them. Or if I wanted some workers, depending what colour I wanted them, I'd take those. You take cards before the dice are rolled. So I couldn't say, well, you know, purple got me 5 coins, so I'm going to take another purple, because you have no idea whether those cards are going to be valuable or not. You can only go on the information you have at the time. So for me now, I think I'd take another purple. I'm going to take a bit of everything. A yellow, a brown, and the only one I'm missing is red, of course. I have to take brown, so I'll take another brown, and those would be my 5 cards going into round 2. As well as being able to use the cards for all those different actions, the actual people have lots of different abilities that can be used in various ways, and also used in combination with each other. So the knight here has the laurel wreath. This would be an endgame effect. The infinity sign here means this is something ongoing throughout the game. And the little step here is something that happens immediately. Then also, as I showed you earlier, you have the cards that have an activation cost. So here with the Lord, I'd have to discard a blue worker in order to take that action. But then I don't have any blue workers left now, so I'd have to discard a blue card to get the blue workers to take this action. Play continues with each player playing 4 of their 5 cards each round. When one of these decks runs out, you play until the end of that round and then score points. There's loads of player aids in this game, and there's one for endgame points. So let's have a look at that. You will score points for your people. As well as the cost in the top corner here, there's also a points value at the bottom. So any people you have in your tableau, you'll score the amount of points shown there. If cards are played as a house, you'll get 1 point for them. So in this case here, with my tableau, I'd get 1 point for my person here and 1 point for the house that they're sat in. Then you score endgame points from the people. Remember the laurel wreath I was talking about? So let's go back to the knight and look. For each protector you have in your tableau at the end of the game, you get 2 points. So even if I just had the one knight, I'd get the 2 points from him. Then you're going to score the majorities. So in this case, I would score 8 points. 4 for my rivers, 4 for my reputation track, but not the points for the people majority. Then you go on to the canal points. So this is where you then score the 3 points on either side, and the points for your statues, as shown here. Then you're going to score the points as shown on the reputation track. So at the moment it's a bit pathetic and I'd only score 1 and the green player would score 3. However, as you can see, there's the potential for up to 12 points on this track. So it can be highly valuable, but it all depends on those dice rolls. Here we only had the 1, so it only cost 1 to move up. However, if you have a dice roll something along these lines, there's no way you're going to want to pay 9 guilders to go up the reputation track. So although there's a lot of points had here, it can be very variable on the dice. So add up all the players' tokens, take the 50 and 100 point markers if you're clever enough to need them, and the player with the most points wins. In case of a tie, money is used as a tiebreaker. Bruges is a very typical Stefan Feld game. There's a lot going on and a lot of ways to earn points, and part of the charm is working out when and where to get those points from. You know, you have 5 cards in your hand. It might be that you want to put a person in a house, but you don't have the money to do it. And the only way to get money is to discard that person that you want to put in the house. And oh my God, it can be so frustrating at times. I love the way it uses the dice mechanism, but isn't wholly dependent on the dice. You partly have to make those decisions based on the best use of your cards at that particular time. The abilities are nice. Sometimes you can get good combinations going, but there's such a huge number of cards that it can be tricky. Don't ever bank on getting a combination in this game. The standard version of Bruges plays 2 to 4 players. When you know what you're doing, it takes about an hour to play. We've also got the expansion in here, which adds a 5th player. It adds boats and auctions and actions that happen when the dice roll 3 or 4. I don't know what's going to be happening with Hamburg with that. I don't know if they're sticking to a revamp of Bruges or whether that's going to add the 5th player, but I guess time will tell. Bruges is also available to play on your Carta. In fact, I'm playing a couple of games on there now. Thank you for watching this video. If you liked it, click like, subscribe, follow, all that rubbish. Come and say hello on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. Hope to see you all soon. Thanks. Bye.